What's going on, guys? I'm Alex Powers. We're here for our fourth table talk. We got our same guests back as last time. We can still not find Mike.
He might be missing.
Yeah.
We should do a, what's that police report where it's like if you're a missing person, it's called something?
Amber Alert. Should we put like,
Yeah! Amber Alert for Mike. Mike Alert, Amber Alert.
Okay. Amber Alert for Big Mike. Shout out. If you can find him, please bring him back. We think he's a lost soul.
You get a free month membership.
Yeah, we'll give you a free month if you can find Big Mike. Okay, so today's topic, something that we all have dealt with in the lifting realm, especially if you've been lifting for a while and even just in sports, injuries. Okay, so all four of us have some sort of injury. So what happened? Where are you currently at with it? And then what did you do to fix it? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
I'd say probably the two biggest injuries I've ever suffered were kind of football related. Shocker. I tore my labrum in my right shoulder in the front, called a slap tear technically.
How'd you tear it?
So that, it's kind of a complicated story, but I guess we can get into it. So I believe it was caused during one of like the pregame warm-ups. I was going to block someone, and obviously they're going the opposite way. And if you're trying to press while someone's running against you, it's not the best thing for your shoulder.
Are you sure?
Like
I'm just kidding.
And so like I even felt it twinge. I was like, ooh, that didn't feel right. But obviously, you get adrenaline's going. You're kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then eventually, like, that was towards the end of the season. Like a month later, when I started kind of like lifting at the end after the season was over. Bench pressing one day, and like I felt like my side tightened up, and I was like, ooh, something's definitely tweaked. And that was like, that was about a year of like PT and going to the doctor before we finally figured out, oh, you tore your labrum, and that's what's causing all these issues on your right shoulder, back, girdle area. Yeah, fun stuff. So I got that repaired. Oh, that was almost a year and a half ago, I think now. And so my strength's probably back up to what it was pre-surgery, but the mobility is probably still something I need to work on, because like I'm an exercise science major at Ohio State right now, and we're doing like in one of my exercise science labs, we were doing some fitness tests, and we're doing a flexibility test, and there's one where you measure the distance between your fingers, put one hand behind your head, the other behind your back, and dude, yeah, the right shoulder is bad. Like, I can barely get it up anywhere, but if I go the other way, I can touch them. Yeah.
You're just swollen on one side.
Just swollen on one
Is
side.
that an answer? Is that like a category?
Swollen on one side. He's too swollen on one side, yes. I think that's one.
He's right side
It was
dominant.
like below average,
Yeah.
average, swollen on one side, good.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and then my junior year of high school, I was playing offensive line, got rolled up from behind, my kneecap dislocated because of, yeah. But popped back into place right away, so the knee just started to swell really.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
You ever seen Mr. Deeds, like one night? You see the movie?
No.
You never saw it? He's like, I think he's like in a small town or whatever, and he goes, and there's this old guy. He's like, hey man, like, the girl that he's like talking to or whatever is like acting like she's a nurse, she's really a reporter. And this guy like moves his whole kneecap. He's like, hey, can you take a look at this? Like, should this be doing this? And like moves it, obviously it's fake, but that literally just made me think of that, like probably what happened to Quinn. But yeah, the old guy was yanking his kneecap around.
Yeah.
Quinn is the old guy in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just standard PT really. I haven't had really any complications from it since, just strengthening that inner quad muscle and those tendons to hold my kneecap in place, I guess was the main goal of my PT. That was about it, I'd say, for my major injuries that I've suffered.
So how do you, like, what did you really do to fix them or like address them outside of like surgery there, obviously? And then like, what are you doing currently? Like, where do you stand with it? Like,
I mean, like the knee, that was so long ago, and I haven't had really any issues since. I just did like the standard like PT that the, I don't know, the place where I'm from, like just like the big like orthopedic PT like company is like Wellington, so I just did what their personal trainer just did for like 6 months or so. yeah, just a bunch of like stability work, kind of single leg work.
You don't have any pain there? What about your shoulder?
The shoulder, like I suffer some pain in the front, kind of where like I tore it every now and then, but I just gotta be on top of like, you know, kind of like keep my pecs loose, keeping my back loose too. And I'm just kind of keeping an eye on that. But like I was saying, like mobility is probably the biggest issue right now, I'd say, for it. But the strength seems to be back to where it was. So,
Where it was.
yeah.
What about you guys?
So I had like a minor shoulder impingement back in high school, just from like first starting out. Trainer I had at the time was a men's physique competitor, and you know they're big shoulder dudes. So we did 4 sets of 25 at the beginning and end of like any upper body day, like 3 days a week, on top of like just like bench presses, shoulder presses, and everything else. And I didn't like never stretched and never did anything like rotator cuff warm-ups or Serrano presses or like anything to like keep my shoulders healthy.
Can't even imagine that.
So it got to the point where like I couldn't like do any type of pressing without having to like stretch out like my rear delts and lats. That was the only way I could like manage it.
I can imagine.
And then that's actually when I first met you. And then you showed me some stuff like rolling it out, like a lacrosse ball in different ways. And that was like my managing of it. And then I just honestly kind of avoided like a ton of like overhead pressing. I'd maybe do it like once every like 2 weeks. And then kind of like 2 years later, it kind of just like faded away. I don't know, probably just because I kept like rolling it out and whatnot. My most recent injury, which is probably the worst one, was I had like a lower back, like a disc issue, just because I was squatting. My head was just not there, like school-wise. I was just getting like drilled and just had like 225 on cut squatting with this one girl I knew. And I just didn't have any belt, didn't brace at all, went like all the way down, caved forward, and pretty much like shot my hips up and good morninged it. And then I just like, I don't even remember the pain, it was just like something like happened. I kind of feel it was like in like my right hip. And then about like a week later, I couldn't like hinge or like bend over like more than like 2 inches. Just cause like I had so much pain, it shot from like my spine down to like my hip and then all the way down to my ankle. So at that point, I was actually doing an internship at it's called the PT Center up in Akron. And I was with like the CSCS up there, and like obviously like, there are a lot of PTs there, so like they just kind of checked me out, did a couple like little tests on me, and they were like, yeah, like without like having like an MRI, we can't tell you 100%, but we're like 99% sure that you have a partial bulging disc and it's hitting a nerve, and then that's leading all the way down to the pain. Yeah.
That's the major one that runs down.
Yeah.
And then, so to fix that, I just like I pretty much took multiple months off of like actual like lifting. I mean, I could do like some like upper body stuff, single leg stuff was okay, but it was a lot of like I had to do dry needling like 3 times a week for about 2 months. It was actually felt I mean, it hurt,
Yeah.
but it like the pain was like instant relief. And then it was like, I don't know, it just like still now I'm still kind of like cautious about it, and I just have to do like, I learned that like my core stability was horrible. So I think like pretty much like the strength of like my legs and my squat was like, I could squat more than my core could handle.
Yeah.
So that's probably like why I caved and got hurt. So I literally just had like, I had 3 like core days like in my like training program at the time just to like get my core strength up. That helped a ton of single leg stuff. And then even now, like when we squat, like I haven't barbell back squatted since. Like I just use like the belt squat here, just because I don't want to mess up anything, or I don't know. Just
How does your lower back and your hip especially feel like using the belt squat?
it feels great. Like because all the pressure's on the hips instead of like the spine. It's nothing like I don't feel like I'm being like smushed down.
Yeah.
So to say.
What about like, so in our last program we actually were front squatting a decent amount. How do you feel when you front squat?
Front squatting was okay. I think because I used to have a big mobility issue like my ankles and hips. I think that's improved because normally when I would like just get to like parallel, like I would get like a ton of pain. Like it was kind of like almost like my SI joint, and that's like where like part of the issue was. But I kind of just kept it light like the first time we did it. Kind of judged it, started to feel okay, and then weeks 2 and 3 were good. Week 4, long work week. So like I knew like my body was just beat down from it, and I tried it. Got to like set 2 and 3, and I could just kind of feel like my spine starting to like round a bit on it.
Yep.
And so like I stopped the set early, and I was like, okay, like I'm not dealing with it again. Like that was only out for like over 6 months before, so I just re-racked it and moved on.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to do that. You got to be smart, and I think ultimately it's about longevity as opposed to
Especially at 21. Like that disc is you at 21, and
Well, that's one of the
That's
reasons
an
why I
issue.
decided to get surgery on my shoulder, because when that was the orthopedic surgery, he was like, I mean, you could be okay without doing it, but obviously you live an active lifestyle, and like you're young, so it'd probably be more ideal for it to be 100% heal, or at least like together, because I still got a lot of life left to live,
Yeah.
hopefully. So.
I definitely understand that. What do you got, Big Kev?
For me, it's been played basketball my whole life. So the 2 injuries I've had been on and off, been ankle injuries and knee injuries. So actually, quite a few sprained ankles, which I'm sure you could probably relate.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then knee injuries, I've had torn meniscus, had to have surgery on that in high school. So just did a lot of physical therapy for about 4 or 5 months after. Right now I'm dealing with some knee injuries. How I'm handling that is just warming up better, stretching, before and after, icing, and bring that back.
Yeah.
Really wasn't icing a lot since my playing days, and then just focusing on hamstrings. So lifting hamstrings a lot more, taking the pressure off the knees and quads.
Okay.
Do you follow Squat University at all?
Yeah.
Did you see like that one post he said about like you shouldn't like ice or something because like that negates like the
I did see that.
natural like inflammatory effect
See that?
of your body to try.
it's
I
like
saw yeah, he's
Yeah.
like a put like you shouldn't ice.
it's like that's like one of the big controversies now.
Yeah.
Like is like the rice like rest. Was it
It's
rest
like
ice?
compression and
Compression,
elevate.
They're saying like that might not. That's like kind of outdated, and like they're kind of finding new stuff where it's like, oh, you shouldn't ice
So
ever.
what they say to do instead of icing.
Just let it be, I guess.
Really? I've been doing ice my whole life.
Right.
Yeah, well yeah, exactly. So that's why people are like, what?
So the whole thing with that is like, so like I'll use your knees for instance. So you have an injury, you're squatting, you have pain, you have inflammation, okay? So what that is like you did something, your knee got pissed off, whatever it is that didn't like, blood rushes to the area, that's what the inflammation is, right?
That's your body's like natural
Yeah.
immune response, what do you want to call it?
So they're sending, obviously, in the blood, you have a ton of nutrients, you have oxygen, you have all these things. Everything that your body needs to heal anything. So think of it as like a cut, right? You start cutting, you start bleeding. The reason you start bleeding is because the blood rushes to the surface trying to stop the wound and like put everything it can to close it up, right? It doesn't want to be open. Same thing with what's going inside your body. Blood rushes to the area, nutrients are circulating, trying to figure out kind of what's going on, where they can be used and everything else, right? When that happens, the whole reason you ice is when you cut down the inflammation, you're telling the blood to go away from the area so then the joint can move more efficiently again, right? If you have an injury like ACL injuries, meniscus that you mentioned, like any of that, you're gonna have blood rush to the area. One of my athletes actually just suffered his second ACL tear, landed on somebody's foot wrong, freak accident, high school kid, literally just came back, right? You know, and that's bringing up the ankle injuries, which I'll talk about in a minute. Blood rush to the area, he's so inflamed and everything else. You know, even with ice, there's only so much inflammation that's gonna come out. Just with something that's very traumatic to the body, it's just, you know, inflammation's gonna stay there. So I don't necessarily think it's right, I don't necessarily think it's wrong. I think there's a time and a place for everything, but for you, you have years and years and years of just your knees just taking a beating. Same with me. Just jumping, running, and everything else on basketball courts, especially on pavement. Every player has played on pavement, which just destroys your knees. But just that landing and everything, like I think ice is completely acceptable to get that inflammation down. I would honestly do like ice heat and stuff like that on recovery days too, just to kind of help everything circulate. myself, I got a separated shoulder, I had tendonitis in both knees, ankle injuries out the wazoo. I specifically remember right after high school going into college, literally taking like the heavy jump stretch band, wrapping around my foot and like just working my ankles before like every day. I think I literally landed on somebody's, like my foot landed on somebody else's and I rolled my ankle one way or the other, literally every day. And it was like, I think I just got so immune to it. Like if I like roll my ankles, it literally sounds like popcorn cracking both of them. It's really disgusting actually.
Popcorn squats.
Yeah, pretty Kevin's
got it.
Yeah, his knees are
Strong, man.
We're all popping and cracking.
I got popcorn bench with elbows.
Yeah. Knees and tendonitis, honestly just strengthening the hamstrings, working on the VMO, and then separated shoulder. So I actually did that working out with one of my old training partners. Our warm up was 100 pull-ups and 60 muscle ups every day. Before every day.
60 muscle ups?
Yeah, not even joking.
I can't do one.
Yeah, not even joking. Yeah, 100 pull-ups, 60 muscle ups. It's insane.
Wait, why would you do both?
That's why his back is so strong.
I was gonna say, well, his back was about as wide as a door, and when you're rowing 125 pound dumbbells, like it's nothing. There's, you know, you're deadlifting 700, you're squatting above 7, and
That's one week. I could tell from the front squats on this last program. I was like, the thing that was giving out for sure was like my core, my upper back.
Yeah.
Because just losing the weight forward, that was definitely the weak point. I would
Yeah.
like to have done more.
you have a strong back, you can do anything. I honestly, so once I separated my shoulder, we were working out 7 days a week, and it was about 4 months straight at this point. I was on like the last set of those like 60 muscle ups or whatever, and I came up and then like I just felt like a really weird like just like hole in my shoulder, and then it like started burning. I was like, yeah, that doesn't feel very good. And we had
to finish the workout, of course.
well, like I kind of stopped for a minute. I'm kind of like moving it around. I'm like, oh, that didn't feel great. And then he's like, you'll be okay. Like you can move it and everything. I was like,
Well, when I finally figured out my shoulder wasn't right, I was like, just go a little lighter, but I'm still gonna finish off the
Yeah.
workout. Cause like, it wasn't in pain. That was a weird thing for me. Like, there was no pain. It was just like, it felt weird. It was like, kind of like uncomfortable. Like, that was like the best way I could describe it to PTs. And they're like, well, let's get everything stronger.
It could be 75 things.
Yeah.
I felt like a hot booger, and then we had dumbbell shoulder press actually, and at the time, like I was I had not done any shows yet actually. I was fairly strong. My shoulders were actually really decent compared to what they are now. I think I had like the 70s or the 80s, and I go like, you know, you like pick them up. I got to like right here, and it just like that hot poker just started getting more intense. I went to do this, and it just like dropped. I was like, that's a no from me, dog. Like, I'm just gonna have to stop here. So anyway, and then I didn't really notice it at first. Like, I was like, okay, like my shoulder's just weak, like whatever. So I stopped the workout. I was done for the day. He finished. The next day, I was looking at my shoulder, and I have this, like, literally my collarbone is separated. There's probably about an inch gap in between, like in that AC joint there.